Hello and welcome to the second part, and in this part we're going to create a digital asset or HDA from the stairs. So to start with, we're going to select everything we have here. And there are a few ways we can create the asset. Is either we go up here and say new asset from selection, so what we selected will be an asset, or we can here convert our selection into a subnetwork. And from this subnetwork, we can then right click on it and say create digital asset. So both of these two ways are the same. So they will bring up this menu anyway, and then we give it a proper name, like stair tool. So as you can see here, I directly save it into my Unity project folder, so I can go quickly back and forward. So then it will open this menu, and in this menu we can then here create our custom parameters. And I'm going to close this for a moment, and I'm going to go in Unity now to see if it's working. So normally you would have now the digital asset here, and we can drag and drop this in the viewport. And then you would see a result. So in my case, a few things are not working correctly, and let's fix that. I fixed the issue by here. Make sure we have normal. Also, I divided the model and also added an output here. For some reason I had multiple output nodes, so make sure you only have one output node here. So in my network I had somewhere else, and in here I had another output node, so make sure there's only one output node here. So we have then this result. So if I put the material on this, we can then have the correct materials and so on. We can also auto assign the material as well. So in here at the end we can then use the Unity material. So we have Unity or Unreal, so we are using Unity. And then in here, in this path here, we have to fill in which material I want to use. So what do you fill in is the path we have here in Unity. So in my case it's going to be called assets stair project called trim stairs material. So in my case it would look something like this. So by default it will assign this material then. So if I would rebuild it now, it would now have automatically assigned the material you want to have. Then I want to first of all expose the curve, because that's the important part of this tool, is that we can have a curve that we can control the length. So here, first of all, we need to open back the menu by going to Assets, Edit Asset Properties, and then I will go into the Node tab, and I will go here to Editable Nodes, and we have to set our curve editable. So make sure you also pick the right curve, because you will have multiple curves. So I know that in my case, curve 1 will be the right curve. So here the first curve you used will be the one that will be exposed. So then you save the tool, go back here, rebuild the asset, and now we will have this line. So as you can see, we can then also do here the same that we did in Houdini, and it's also quite fast. Also notice that there is here sometimes problems with this placement, so I will have to double check that what the issue will be. But then generally I see most of it is working as I expected. So then I have replicated the issue here that I had in my Unity project. So in some cases it would flip over the handle part. And the main issue here is in the extrude node, and we need to set it actually from local to global. So now I'm going to fill in back null, and we need to drag this back up. So there was this, so now it should look into the global space and not the local space. So that should fix the issue. So let's save it and rebuild the asset. And I can already see here that it's popping in the right place. So that was a small tweak we needed to make there. Now let's add some more parameters here so I can control some values. Open the menu back again. And you can here create values. And first of all, I will be creating folders to sort the parameters. So I will have a folder for the stair steps. And I also have a folder then for the support piece. And I'll actually start out with creating values for the support piece. So like I mentioned before, I would like to control some values on where the shape is, how high it should be, what the width should be. So we'll create here some place before the symmetry. And I'm going to use a transform node. And in this transform node, I will be selecting what I would like to move. So let's say these points, I would like to move them, and I'm going to press enter. And now I can control with this value what the width should be of the support piece. So this will be the width. Then we can take another transform node, and I can do the same process, but for example then for this part, which can then be the height of this part. Then you can repeat this as much as you want it. And let's, for example, take then, and let's take these nodes, these points, and so we can make this part bigger and call it, for example, side width. And then these values I want to expose then. So open the menu and you can drag and drop then these values. So we have to make sure we are taking the correct one. So this one, and this one. So first of all, name this correctly, because otherwise the naming are quite confusing. So this will be the width, the height, and this is then the side width. And then press apply. And now we should be able to control this in Unity. So here, as you can see, we can control the width, can control how high this part is, and then we can also control here this part as well. So you can create a very heavy support if you want that, or you can go here, create like a very thin and subtle support piece. So you have some variation in these options. So you can also see that the unwrapping is automatically done with sweep node. But later on I will build a small procedural system for unwraps. So now that we have set the width, I would like to link the width also to the handles and the stairs. So when I change the width, automatically my stairs are getting bigger, my stair steps are getting bigger, and also the handle will move to the correct position. So in here I will go to the width node. Right now it's 0. If I click on this button, we can then copy paste this reference. So instead of always typing, I'm just going to copy paste it here. And let's go, for example, to the handle. So let's go here to the handle part. And I need to replace this length with the width of my system. So right now it's 0. So we should actually add the base value we currently have. So in my case, it was something like 3.2. So this is then the base value. And now if I change here the width, it should go with it. But I forgot one small thing, is that in here, we change the width and then we symmetrize the result. So I have to multiply this result and now it should stay on that position. And I will copy paste this code and I will use it then here as well, where I can control then here the stair size. So I'm going to repeat the same process I actually did. So I'm going to use a transform and I'm going to select the pieces that would have to move to match the width. So for example, select these, press enter, and this needs to be moved, and then this needs to be then moved along how much of the width I have. So if I go back here, you can then see it's following. Maybe it's too much because it's coming outside. Maybe it's too much because it's coming here outside the shapes. So I might subtract then a low value from it, like 0.2 or something. So it's a little bit more in the shape. So if I would go here, we can now make a smaller version. We can also see that we can break it by going too low. Then we can create some parameters for these steps. And while I was building this, I also noticed one small mistake, is that we have one stair here that is actually invisible because it's inside this model. So which means that the last point on this line doesn't need to have a model. So with a range node, I can select then a line without the last model selected. So as you can see, this point is not selected now. And I call this steps. And now we can use this group here. And now it should be better, so we don't waste unnecessary polygons and models in that space. So now to create values, parameters here, what we can do is we can expose this value, so we can decide how many of these we should have. Here in the step size, in the stair steps, I can then start exposing this value, so we can control that amount. Then we could also do the same here with some of these transform nodes, is we can select points to move. So using a transform, and maybe we have a transform that actually works as same as this one, but with another value. So we can afterwards always tweak the size of this. So here, this is then the width. Then another transform. This one, for example, controls then these points. So we have some control in where these details will be. That could also be nice. I'm gonna middle and apply. And let's see how well this works then in Game Engine. So automatically we can see that it fitted well, that it's fitted better. And now I can always in here adjust how much stairs I would like to have. Then I can always tweak the width, and I can tweak this small middle detail, as you can see here. And you can keep building as much parameters as you would like to have for your stairs. What is also possible is when we have our final model, we can actually bend this version. So in here, let's say we have then a bend node that will bend automatically my model. So in here, this case, it's not set up correctly. So what I will do first of all is I'm going to switch to the top view. So you can either go in here or press the shortcuts. And I will go scroll down here, and in the new bend node, we're going to set region capture. And I'm going to collect here, somewhere in the middle, from the beginning to the end. And it will automatically create the bounding box. And as you can see, we can then start bending this model. And instead of bending in this direction, I will go here to the up vector control, and we need the X direction, so I can let my stairs go in this way or this way. But you can already see one big problem is that we don't have the correct amount of topology. And we can solve this by using a divide. And in the divide node, I'm interested in using here the breaker polygon feature. So I don't need to have the triangle feature, I need to have the breaking polygon. And if you look careful, it actually already added some lines, as you could see here. If I would compare this, you can see that there are lines added. So we can play around with these values. So if we, for example, would go lower, it will create more divisions. If you would go higher, let's say 20, it will create less or bigger spacing between lines. So you can increase certain values. So we have enough topology to bend this properly. And as you can see now, we have a nice curve to bend this shape. We could also optimize this a bit more if you want to. Like maybe we don't need to put extra polygons on the stair steps itself. And what we could do is create a group here and just call it stair steps. And in the divide node, we can then call this stair step group, and it will then only now fill in extra topology there. So we have to put an exclamation mark to reverse the group. And now we have saved the stair steps from not getting all these extra polygons. So that it would be possible if you want to optimize it a bit more, because I think these already have some topology to bend. So this is to show you that you can easily add extra features in the stairs tool to, for example, bend, twist it, whatever you want to. We can then easily add some new values. So we can easily add more deformations to fit in your scene. So you can also, like I said, you can twist it, but that would be a bit weird for my scene. But if you have a game that you need some more complex stairs, you can use the bend node to then twist it. Or here we can do a taper to make the ending bigger or smaller. That could also be cool to have. So you could see you can build a lot of variation with this bend node already. But you probably don't need this always. So we're going to build in a switch node, and then we can switch between the bend version and no bend version. So I'm going to create the menu, open the menu again. And in this menu, I will create a new folder. And this can then be for example, deformations. And first of all, let's create a toggle. So a toggle that is enabling the bend on and off. I want to, of course, expose how much bending is happening. And we can also, for example, the length, that could also be an interesting one. You could also expose how much polygons are being added in the grid here. So you can control a bit how much is spent on the polygons. Also, I will add a better naming in my toggle. So toggle bend, and here channel toggle bend. So that is also linked now. So then I go here back in Unity and rebuild the asset. And now we have an extra option here to start bending my model. So as you can see, this also works pretty fast in Unity. So if my level has this very specific angle, I can then here in Game Engine decide on how it should go. So we have the smooth stairs. And that was it for this part, where we created a digital asset, and we can now use this in Unity and we can have very specific results to what I would like to have in my level.